Okay, maybe we didn't have the countdown. That's Zach helping me out. So, yeah, great. So no countdowns, but we're here. We're live. I'm your co-host Tyler Sage at Ring of Tyler, and today I'm not joined by Zach, but I'm joined by PWTorch Columnist, the king of the Indies. I would like to call him. I don't know if that's a moniker that you've been had there, Sean, but I'm joined by Sean Radican.
Head of the table.
Head of the table, yes. I acknowledge your presence here on the show today. Sean, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Ready to talk some wrestling this week now. Zach and I have been lucky to cover the Vince McMahon retirement live, which is crazy. Other big news. So not a ton of, there's big news this week, but, I think some more in the ropes, stories, angles, stuff like that. We're going to be covering Dynamite, all the returns and potential returns there. We're going to talk about Triple H and all his kids, if you will, coming back. And then we're also going to talk a little bit of G1 on the back of the show. As always, your comments are welcome. I see we have a couple people in the live feed already. So please comment below and, we'll get to your questions. And, let's get rolling. So Sean, Dynamite. I guess your initial thoughts. I've been talking for a minute and a half now. So your initial thoughts of the Quake by the lake, which, was to me Quake on the lake, Quake in the lake, Quake around the lake, all that stuff. So
it was good. It was good overall. A lot to like. The coffin match was a lot of fun to start the show, and then bookend it with a interim world title match with Jericho and Moxley was quite good, and most of the stuff in between was, not all of it was great, but I thought, just a good show with a surprise return at the end with Punk coming back after working everyone at the whatever the convention was that they did the other weekend.
C2E2.
Yeah, I always. I'm not good with convention names, but
yeah.
But he was, he's grumpy. He was, selling the heck out of his foot to people that saw him, and even without him doing that, you would think if just based on him being out and how you would think that type of an injury to your foot, like you heard it was pretty bad, but maybe it wasn't as bad as AEW keeps a pretty good lid on just how bad injury. You know what I mean in terms of their injury reporting. They're not too forthright, so maybe it wasn't as bad as was being speculated for him to be back this quick. So that's great news for them, and it was made a hell of a show closing angle with him setting up that interim world championship match for presumably All Out.
Yeah, and Zach and I have been talking about that here on this show. Is that that seemed like the ultimate headliner of the All Out pay-per-view, which continues to be, it's not presented as such, but it's essentially the WrestleMania of.
It's kind of like their
it's their biggest show of the year, even if it's in like one of the worst arenas in the country, which I could not believe. I thought it would for sure be somewhere else besides the Now Center, but they probably get great rates, which is beside the point. That's a WrestleNomics pod probably, but
anyway in Chicago.
yeah. But but this it essentially, mentally for me, the cutoff for Punk to come back was this week or next week at the latest to build that feud properly. So, whether he is, 100% cleared, obviously he was jumping on the foot and whatnot. I don't think we'll see him in a warm-up match. I'm curious your thoughts on that going into that.
No, that'd be foolish. That'd be throwing away buys.
Yes. So, I think all that is part of it. He's probably 90% clear, whatever. Not getting anyone's health or whatever, but this was the they had to do it here in this spot and on the show. And I don't know. It was a surprise, as you said. It was a surprise for me. But yeah, a good surprise. Would you have handled it any other way, or did you like it just the way it was?
It's fine. It's really good. They got the, Moxley flipped him off and bumped into him on the way out. So there's, they're not going to be buddies heading into the match, obviously.
Yeah. And
so there's some tension between them. So hopefully they can build upon that. And, it's just more than, we have to unify this title. There's, Moxley's got a chip on his shoulder, and that'll be the direction. And Punk, of course, has to come back and beat Moxley and to keep his championship. So I'm interested to see what direction the story takes going forward, and hopefully it's probably they're two biggest acts, I would say, right now, and they're two of their best promo guys. I thought Jericho and Moxley cut really good promos on Dynamite to set up their main event, and I'm interested to hear, I'm interested to see if they're allowed to do a little more talking since, like you said, we probably don't want Punk. I don't want to see them doing the old Raw like tag matches, like where they're on or even worse, the buddy tag team where they're forced to tag together before.
The
reluctant tag partner storyline.
Yeah, for sure. And not to bring everything back to WWE, I think AEW's been good as of late, not doing that with a lot of the talent. But I'm trying to think: is there? I mean, obviously, the Shield came in and helped Punk kind of in the later stages of his career. But I wonder if is there anything like that you can recall or anyone in the chat can recall of Punk and Dean Ambrose at the time having any sort of beef on, at least storyline wise, on television that they can tie into. I don't think they should, but I think that's always in the back of people's head.
Well, they could be. I can't remember if there was.
I don't think so. I mean, I think the only thing you might get a mention is like, hey, you used to work for me, remember?
Well, wasn't the Shield originally supposed to be for Punk?
Yeah. They came out and.
God, that's right. It was for. I don't know.
Forget who it was. Was it
Summer Heat's got me?
Yeah, like
I think it's facing wasn't it Ryback? Maybe?
Yeah, and they came out and triple power bombed somebody, and basically Punk won because of that during his title run. So I think you might get a little tinge of that in the storyline, but the personal animus of both them being top stars of their generation, and yes, I think two of the best talkers, obviously independent of MJF. You kind of have to write him off of any list like that. And to me, this is probably the biggest match that AEW can put on at the moment. And it's easily going to be the biggest main event match. I guess you could also talk about Hangman and Kenny, but I think that was a foregone conclusion who was going to win. This one feels much more open and what can happen here. I mean, I think, Punk's the right way to go, but I think it's a little bit more open in a big main event. So just like you're, a month out, basically, 3 weeks out on the match. What do you think?
It's a big decision to make. You know, I mean, you had Punk as your biggest star, and you just put the title on him, but he got hurt right away. And now Moxley stepped up, and he's been really good since he won that eliminated, whatever they called it. Won the interim title, and it's a tough decision to make. If Moxley loses, where does he go? What does that mean for him in the championship? Do they kind of break some of their booking patterns, and could they bridge a Moxley and Punk? I mean, I'd like to see them make some money off these two. Mm-hmm. If the issue's hot enough, where they bridge it to there's a pretty short turnaround to the next pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. Depending how it goes, I just think there's money to be made with these two, and I don't know how if you divorce them after whatever happens at All Out, how do you bring them back together in a a meaningful way anytime soon? So they've got, Tony's got some decisions to make, because this, probably wasn't part of his long-term plan to, with Punk's injury, forcing this change. Maybe it was Punk versus Moxley, so maybe it doesn't change. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking I'd just like to see them drive behind two guys and let them carry the wagon, so to speak, instead of where we get the show. The show pretty much seems like like before you know it, you're like in the middle of this like pure chaos every week when Dynamite starts. And I'd like to see them try to not totally get away with that, but like really put a spotlight on Punk and Moxley and develop an issue between them and see what that can do for the ratings in their box office. But it's just, it just, on the other hand, you don't expect them to stop what they're doing. So, I'm not quite sure, because their talking segments are so short.
Mhm.
Usually, like, I'm just not sure that they'll give these guys tons of time every week on the mic to build their issue. That would be a departure from how they usually operate. Usually it's, when they build feuds, it's, one or two big issues, and then they do this, like, these schmages where everyone ends up brawling with whoever they're feuding with. But I'd be interested to see if Tony says, hey, like, these two are really special, and we can really get something out of building up a story for All Out and really focusing on that match as the match, and not, trying to promote 11 or 12 matches, and
Mhm.
Excalibur is like frantically calling out the last matches at the end of the show while Punk and Moxley are in the ring. And it's like, oh, by the way, we got Jake Gargano. Should we have Rampage on Friday?
Yeah.
Like, he's
Mhm.
just like turning blue in the face. And I just hope they can slow down. I don't expect them to change their identity or anything, but my hope is that they would slow down. But I'm just see how it plays out, because it's, um, I don't know if they're going to change what they do. They just never have, and not that
Mhm.
I mean, that works for their, their ratings and their success for the most part. Um, so I'm just interested to see, do they do, because they already have big things happening next week. They have this, tie in with the Game of Thrones, the new
Mhm.
Game of Thrones series coming to HBO.
Mhm.
Um, so he throws so many irons into the fire, Tony. It's hard to think that he's going to depart from that totally. But my hope is they find a way to maybe, like, maybe just give us 10% more than you normally would of Punk and Moxley and their issue and their promos, and maybe even, just make it important, make it
Mhm.
the focus of your show, and uh, just turn it up a little bit. I think if they do that, it'll build to a fever pitch by the time the paper. I mean, they have just the right amount of time to do it.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Three,
think so.
4 episodes.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think next week for sure. I mean, CM Punk has to have a 10-minute talking segment. It's like almost built into the show notes at this point to, explain everything and kind of be the groundwork for them doing that. And then one fantasy booking thing before we transition to the next subject here is, I love the idea that you're getting at here of I think WWE under Vince McMahon too often did every feud was 3 matches almost no matter what, and that is dull, and was just part of the booking, and you just built that in. And then AEW is the opposite, where it's like one-offs only. you know the match we saw, which we'll get to next, was a rematch, but it was 2.5 years later between Moxley and Jericho. And I think there is room for AEW to change it up a little bit, to do multiple matches going pay-per-view to pay-per-view between top acts, like a CM Punk versus a John Moxley. And one way to do that, in my opinion, I don't know if it's necessarily great, it just came to my mind while you're talking, so I reserve the right to change my mind on this. But I think Brian Danielson comes out of the heel tunnel, and Blackpool Combat Club is kind of a gray zone as characters. And there's an easy way for Moxley and the Blackpool Combat Club to screw over Punk and have
Right.
Moxley win. I know Moxley's very, very popular as a face, but I think no one is more popular than CM Punk, and screwing him over in the main event and kind of having that sort of finish that we haven't had yet would, I think, be at least an interesting way to take this, an option that has to be on the table to continue and have CM Punk not just come back and earn get his title back without earning it, right, in the eyes of the booking.
I
And you can
mean,
do
and
him
and
coming back. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it could, though, like Claudio seemed really jovial
Hmm.
walking up the aisle with. I don't know if you picked up on that,
Hmm.
but when he was walking up the aisle with Moxley after Punk made that save, like, is that a little clue for us? That,
Yeah.
why are they so happy about Punk? You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think that is
Could be a little red herring.
yeah, for sure. Or it's like, Danielson and Yuta side with Moxley and help him, and then maybe Claudio doesn't agree with that, and he's, his brethren, his Ring of Honor brethren, is being attacked, sort of something like that. You didn't tell that story, and obviously with all that stuff. But let's transition, because I'm also curious what type of match this would be between Punk and Moxley, because we had a barn burner of a match that I assume you love, knowing your proclivities for pro wrestling, between John Moxley and Chris Jericho. It was about a 25-minute match, lots of blood, especially at the end with Jericho, whether that was a big cut on his top of his nose or he broke his nose and was bleeding out. I mean, that was
he did.
That was some of the most active blood loss I've ever seen on TV ever, which is crazy. So your thoughts on that match, and then we'll kind of
it was great, but like I've talked about this with others before. Like the blood is just getting to be too much. Like you're getting desensitized to it. Or at least I am, It seems like Moxley bleeds every time. I'm like, I was saying, I think I said to Rich Fan or maybe Zach, he's like the new Ric Flair. He just gigs in the back and he's bleeding, making his entrance,
Yeah. I mean, that's
we already had tons of blood in the, sorry, I mean, interrupt, but we already, just already had tons of blood in the opener. And then again in the main event, it's just like blood's supposed to mean something. You know what I mean? Like, and the more you do it, the less it means. And like they do it all, like, you know what I mean? They just had the blood and guts match, and then like every Moxley match, like I can't remember, like maybe 1 week he didn't bleed when he was in some sort of tag or something.
Yeah. I think he did on accident though. I think he went so hard and actually cut himself.
It's just such a crutch, like that he doesn't need, because the fans are there with them. You know what I mean? Like. Mm-hmm. So like we gotta bleed tonight, brother, to get the fans popping. You know, it's like they don't need that.
Yeah.
And just blood in general is just not like, I'm just not for. You know what I mean? I'm just not for it in wrestling. Like unless it's like really makes the match, and it can make the match if it's a brutal feud. Like for blood and guts, it worked. But imagine if they had left the blood off TV for 2 or 3 months, in pay-per-views, and how much more it would mean to see these guys all, all busted open and going at it.
Yeah.
It just feels like, we see blood every week on Rampage or, one way or the other, there's blood. And it's like, it's just like it's just like an overuse of a crutch. Like they like to do the lights on, lights off a ton too. It's just one of those. I mean, just switch it up. But it didn't really ruin. It didn't really ruin it. I don't want to say ruin's not the right word. I think it would have meant more if it had been dialed back, in general. But overall, I mean, both those matches were awesome, and the sight of Jericho getting choked out with the blood coming out of his nose was just a crazy ending visual to the show. But I think you get even more out of that. Just it's human reaction. You don't see, like, that's why you're on the highway and people are all backed up because you don't see a car accident every day. That's why, like, people on the other side of the highway stop and turn their head, and like traffic piles up both ways because it's not something you see every day. But if you want to catch attention, you got to make it special. You got to make it out of the ordinary. And I think they're just going a little too, you know what I mean? Just a little too far. Like, there's got to be some balance to help it make these matches even more memorable. Because like now when I'm thinking of these matches this year, I'm like, the blood and guts, that was awesome, but you know what I mean? And now I'm like, well, then like trying to remember, like there's just like, it's just like they kind of just like they kind of just all start to converge because of the bleeding.
Yeah, for sure. And I, anyone that knows me, listens to me, knows that I very much like a death match, like blood matches, etc. But I fully agree with your point here, because I think this match, the blood meant almost nothing until that final visual of Chris Jericho just gushing, as my dogs are just going insane in the background. So I'm sure you can hear that. But yeah, without that moment of him just gushing blood, which is super dangerous, and I was worried about his life as a human being, as Chris Irvine, right? I mean, that's like, without that blood is utterly meaningless in that match, except for that moment, which is a problem, because that match itself was all about the submissions. It was about the Heart Dungeon, versus the Blackpool Combat Club, like that sort of interwoven storyline that was lessened by just the absolute blood and ripping out the earring, all that sort of stuff, which is a cool spot in a vacuum, but didn't need it for that match. That could have been it could have been an Austin Bret Hart match where maybe you have some blood at the end that makes it more meaningful. But that match didn't. I mean, the blood put it over the top.
That loss of the blood made him pass. All the story was it made him pass out. And so in that instance, it means something. But when Jon Moxley's just running around like a house of fire covered in blood, it's just basically a special effect in an action, in an action movie that you're not going to remember.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to bounce around here, but I like Zahn's comment here because I haven't gotten your take on this on MJF in general. So to me, I'll preface this with my opinion, Sean. And Zahn writes here: does MJF play a part in the match between Mox and Punk? So I've kind of wavered on this being a work and not being a work. You don't even have to get into that if you want to, but I feel like if you go the traditional route that I think the most likely route is Punk defeating Moxley and being the unified champion with his all of Chicago cheering him in his hometown, and if MJF does not reappear at that moment, I feel like it almost certainly is a bridge that is not going to be gapped anytime soon. So your thoughts on anything there or anything MJF related?
Well, I think they want us to forget MJF, and that's part of the angle, and that's why he's gone so far to scrub him, and from the website and from the merch and from the commercials, and they want us to forget. So it is all out long enough for everyone to forget about MJF. I think he got through a whole Death Before Dishonor pre-media scrum without being asked about MJF, but he might have been asked at the actual show. After the post-show scrum, maybe someone asked him. He keeps getting asked. It feels like he's been kind of forgotten a little. You know what I mean? It's not like the buzz of the it's not like something that you see people really talking about anymore. So is that the? The only thing that factors in is that long enough for the angle to be effective when he comes back, and is it going to bring that shock from when did the angle start? Was it May? Was it Double or Nothing weekend?
Yeah, that's like when he was maybe not going to show up, etc. And then they had the very worked, like just laying down. That
very next Wednesday, he cut the promo in LA in front of the executives. Excuse me. So June, July. So you got almost 3 months. June, July, August. 3 months. Hasn't been mentioned on TV. He's been scrubbed. Tony just issues no comments. So that could be long enough to pull the trigger. Because I think, I'm pretty sure it's a work, and he wants to bring him back. And MJF's the type of person that will do what he needs to do. So he's, the report came out from Fightful, he's not talking to people he normally talks with. So, he's just doing everything he can to work the surprise. Because if he's if he's talking to all his wrestling buddies, that's going to get to the press, get to the media. And then that kind of gets the word out there again. It's hey, this guy's engaged. He's not. I think the whole Hollywood thing is, it might be real, but I think it's I think it's just another thing to make people think, oh yeah, he's never going to come back. He's going to go act. He's going to do voice work, and that might all be real. But I have a hard time, believing that he's just there's no way that they let him cut that promo in front of the executives. There's no way. I talked to Zach, about it that weekend, and I talked to Wade about it that weekend. And I was convinced it was real, and I still, I was convinced it was a work after they made up, that weekend. And him and Tony made up of, at some point, had a talk and got him back in, and going to capitalize on it because it's worked before. This loose cannon thing's worked before.
Yeah. And I guess Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
But I was gonna say, I think I agree with you. He comes in like whoever wins the match. I wasn't even thinking of MJF, so that tells you that maybe he is off because I was going on and on about how I'd like to see more out of Punk and Moxley. So
Yeah, yeah.
that is one way you depart from it is you have him lay out whoever wins.
Yeah, but like also he got that babyface reaction at the end of that promo. Yeah, he went from not that was supposed to be a babyface promo, but I mean he got the crowd behind him. I think him coming back would excite the crowd. That's all just interesting things to think about. But the main question, and I think you kind of answered it there, is like if it doesn't happen here, we're probably a significant distance away from it happening. Like we're really going to get into that like, oh man, this is really it. Like it's been like 9 months, it's been a year, it's been like some crazy amount of time because he's under contract till what, May of 24, something like that.
January 2020. So theoretically they could carry it on for about a year and a half if they want it.
I just feel like it's like this moment if Punk wins, or it's like way down the line. So it's just something to keep an eye on of like, not that you want to spoil all the surprises for yourself, but All Out last year was very big on reveals. And if that's like, if MJF comes back here, I think that's a big moment for
that. It makes sense because it's their rest, like we said before, it's kind of like all their I mean, Double or Nothing feels really big too. And, but two of their four, I mean, all their shows seem to feel big, but especially Double or Nothing and, All Out. So that seems like the perfect ending to their what's usually their biggest, buy rate of the year is, even if either it's him, attacking Punk after the match or even running out, costing him the title and just disappearing. Like that would be enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like him disappearing again for 3 months and just like appearing and being a chaos agent, something like that. There's lots of ways to go.
Disappear, but like that's all they do is have him cost Punk the match. They show him, maybe after the 3 count, and then that continues to Dynamite.
Yeah. And then speaking of reveals at All Out, we had interesting, last week on Dynamite. So what, 12 days or like 10 days ago, we had Hangman Page coming out and saving the Young Bucks from Adam Cole and Red Dragon. And this week, we saw the Bucks apologize, or Matt Jackson mainly apologizing to Hangman Page and asking him to join their trios team. He denied them, said he would be in the corner of Dark Order. And next week, it'll be Andrade and Roosh and Dragon Lee, right? Is part of that group?
I think so. Yeah,
which is awesome for me and you as ROH guys. Maybe not Roosh, but
working hard.
Yeah, he has been working hard. I've been his biggest critic, and I think he has been working really hard and doing jobs.
I think he knows he has to here.
Yes, which is good. I mean, it's good. But they've got a mystery partner next week for the trios tag. I mean, all signs point to Kenny Omega. Do you think that's where they're going? Or is this the right spot to do it?
Anything else is just bad news because this is like gone terribly for the Bucks, so far.
Yeah.
And I mean, what kind of these wishy-washy feeling angles with them and I've had enough of wishy-washy, say, oh, sorry guys, I'm gonna hang with my new friend.
Yeah.
They were there for me, and I'm like, gag me. I'm like, I've had enough of sad Hangman and now it's the sad Young Bucks.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've been in Act 2 of like a 3-act structure with that story for like 2 years now. It's outrageous, like how long we're like in this. I
just feel like the Bucks, they used to be so cool. Like, who the hell would say no to tagging with them?
Yeah.
And now they walk up all sheepish. I'm like, I mean, like these guys are renegades, and I don't know what's happened with in terms of just their storylines. They've just been like, I don't know, just it's not like the most exciting way to bring Kenny. Like, it's just like it's Kenny or bust, and he comes out, and then they move from there, and have awesome matches. But it's not like I'm not excited. Like, I'm excited for Omega to be back, but I'm like, I'm like these guys are kind of losers on TV,
Yeah, and maybe
I mean, they get rejected for him to hang with the shambles of the Dark Order that are left.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of is like literally no one comes out there for them. and like Hangman comes out, then when they're
Right,
getting
he's the only one.
yeah, like it's basically a 3-on-2 match. And Hangman comes out and saves them, and they do that because like just to me, because the bigger question to me is like this does not feel like on the House of the Dragon themed Dynamite. It does not feel like the right spot for Kenny Omega to come out and re-premiere. I feel like he's at a tick above that level. Maybe it's the main event, but like him coming out as the mystery on that just doesn't feel.
Tony said the titles are for the Young Bucks and Kenny.
Oh yeah, for sure. Which is like great, not great as a promoter to just give out all the stuff to people that listen to media calls. But yeah, I don't know. It just like to me, it lowers Kenny on the the pecking order.
It just feels weird. Like I said, just like it just doesn't feel natural. Like there's been no progression for the Bucks to you know what I mean? It feels like I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. That's why I said wishy-washy. Like, you know what I mean? The way they're talking to Hangman and he rejects them, and then it's like, I mean, well, you're supposed to be excited that like Kenny Omega comes back and helps them out. And what does that make them? Are they just heels again because Kenny's back, or is Kenny a face just coming back just because he's back? And I mean, that's not the most creative storytelling. I don't like that. You know what I mean? Like wrestling gets away with so much, especially like heel comes back in his face just because he.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then
I just feel like the story's not satisfying.
Yeah. And then how about any comment to Zahn here on Kota Ibushi?
He's a long way away from being back into the ring.
I would say so for many reasons. I think contractually would be one thing, and just mental mindset and health wise. So
I mean, Tony's literally said like these titles are for
yeah. That's what it seems like. So we'll see there. That's why I kind of got buried in the show notes because that's kind of where it feels like it needs to be with Punk's
return. I don't
return.
think New Japan would ever let Kota Ibushi debut in another promotion.
I don't think so either.
Or return, I mean.
Yeah, unless there was like a parting of that contract completely, but I don't think that's happening.
I mean, it seemed like maybe things are getting a little better, but who knows? I mean, like talking about it before with Rich and Rich Fan and other people. When it happened, I was like, how does Kota Ibushi ever go back after what happened? It was so bad. His mother tried to commit suicide. I mean. You know what I mean?
That's not good. It's not good. Not good.
How do you repair that relationship at that point? But it just and I know it's different culturally over there, and I don't know if that helps or hurts that, but it's wrestling, so fences get mended. It's just like for normal people that would be like you're never talking to those people again. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but wrestling is that business, unfortunately. So you also, last thing on Dynamite, you brought up the coffin match as something you wanted to bring up. So just your thoughts on that. I mean, you talked about the blood in that on the top, but your thoughts on
just really good stuff. I felt Darby was being on trajectory to be a top guy, and I felt like he was kind of being pushed to the background. He lost in very convincing fashion to Brody King. I forget what is it, maybe a month before this.
Yeah, it was the
3 weeks.
Yeah, 2-3 weeks ago. Yeah,
just choked him out.
Yeah.
Or was it in that?
Well, yeah. So he beat him in the
Battle Royal.
Yeah, the Rampage Royal to get the title shot, and then he beat him in a singles match after he had taken him out at the signing in the Seattle Mall location.
Yeah. So I thought this was big for Darby, and I thought it delivered, and I felt like he was off track. And it's refreshing to see, because you don't see that a character rehabbed correctly very often. Like I thought they were going too far with it in terms of like, hey, this guy's kind of starting to not seem so special anymore. And then they go to his kind of his wheelhouse, the coffin gimmick match, the interference comes and Murphy goes to open the casket, and I mean it was perfect, and we still got the dangling thing with Sting has a little bit of the mist on his paint.
Yeah.
And Darby won. And it was kind of like it was just really well done, I thought, all around. And I mean, Brody King's been awesome. I was high on him. And Ring of I just felt like he never got like a chance to truly shine in Ring of Honor, just because like just the way Ring of Honor was. And, but I feel like he's been I feel like he's outshined Malachi Black, and like just like he's so good in the ring. It's like I feel like I'm almost afraid to push. You know what I mean? Like if you push him, like he can come across like a monster. Like that's part of the reason I got kind of concerned about Darby, because like just the beating, like his presence and the way he beat on Darby leading, when the feud began, he can eat people up with his presence.
For sure. I mean, he's a much better wrestler than Wardlow, right? Like you could do the Wardlow trajectory with him, and I think it works a lot better. And he feels like a world champion, just like Wardlow does now after being built up. Because I mean, Wardlow has not shown a ton in the ring.
I mean, he's like, Brody's a PWG, West Coast main event. You know what I mean? And he can go.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's gotten better.
Yeah. But yeah. So. I agree with everything you said. Even the Sting reveal, which seemed like obvious, was still like it's weird. Like Sting is in a weird bubble, at least for me personally. I wonder if you feel the same way. Of like all the stuff is like, this is kind of what I think is going to happen because I watch a lot of wrestling. But then when it does happen, I still go like, it's still like that fun. It's like watching.
They kind of keep them away just enough so it works.
It's like the stuff in like I don't know, Top Gun, Maverick, or like a Marvel movie where you kind of know like. I'm kind of getting played here, and this is like the moment I'm supposed to cheer and clap, but I do anyway. So Sting just has that's that vibe for me, which is good. I mean, it's good to have one person on the show that can do that, and I mean, the finish was great with the choking him out with the chain and then him falling into the coffin.
Talk about it for perfect.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, but just it worked for the character too to not like totally, pun intended, bury Brody by having kind of fall in and then his weight just shut the coffin, so that I liked all of that. I thought it worked really well, and I'm excited for assume the three members of House of Black versus Darby, Sting, and somebody else at the pay-per-view. I think will be a really good time. I don't know who that third person will be, but I'm looking forward to it no matter who it is. So maybe Eddie Kingston. He's always good to throw into some car crash match.
That was just like so enjoyable.
Yes. And that's, I think, what AEW does really well and still has is really bookending shows, strong openers, strong closers.
They feel like pay-per-views. That's all like a pay-per-view. Like parts. Like between Jericho, like you just never got stuff like that on free. You know what I mean? On free TV, like at that, they build stuff up and they deliver it on free TV. Like they're not asking fans to pay $50 all the time.
Yeah.
Which I think, will endear them in the long run. Like. Hey, like we know this is going to deliver. I think that's why their pay-per-view buys go up. It's just not word of mouth. It's quality of product. Like that blood and guts match, like that should have. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I would have been interested to see how that would have done as a main event on a pay-per-view. Like it's just amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, somebody cut that up and send that to Tony Khan if he ever has complaints about the Torch. We have some nice things to say too. But no, I agree 100%. I'm just messing with you. So let's transition. There's a lot of stuff in the chat here, and I want to get to it. So Dr. Ross, thank you for joining us. He asked, do you think we'll see any wrestlers return to WWE tonight on SmackDown? And that is my first question to you. My second question to you, Sean, of that would be, we've had Karrion Kross, we've had I'm blanking who appeared on Monday.
Loomis.
Loomis? Yes, Dexter Loomis appeared on Monday. Thank you.
Maybe they'll just call him Dexter. I don't know.
Yeah. But so the acute question here is, do you think we see anyone tonight? And then your overall thoughts on the people that have come back already. And how you think that works. Do you like that? Do you not like it? And then I'll get to my opinion as well.
With the women, I liked what he did a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to let Io Sky's contract just run out, and Dakota Kai is incredible, and love what he did with that. trying to think of who. Not a fan of. It's not that I'm not a fan of Cross. I just, you know what I mean. He's just not a main event guy to me. Like just the way he just, like just watch his punches on SmackDown when he's beating up Drew. They're just so bad. He just doesn't have a lot of believability in his striking.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's weird because I've seen him in Bloodsport and stuff like that. But for whatever reason, like I just don't see him, just the way he carries himself. It's just not main event level compared to the like Roman's looking at him after the show, Drew McIntyre tweets like there's the dress up, whatever he's, just that mocking tweet. And the other thing, I got into Cross has this, I know people that I don't hate Cross either. Like, it's not like I don't think he has a spot like with the right push, but Triple H is just so high on it. You know what I mean? Like, and I just think bringing him back and inserting him into a feud with Roman Reigns is just like a big reach after, he's out there wearing like a loincloth and a mask and like, you know what I mean? Just not only that, just I just don't think he can have like matches like you know what I mean? Like usually we get pretty good main events on pay-per-views and maybe in a 3-way he'll be fine, but just his striking's not good. And like I even get like I got into and people have pointed out on Twitter, like he says TikTok, but he's got an hourglass that makes no noise. So like, why does he say TikTok?
Yeah.
Like, why doesn't he just say swish swoosh? Like when they, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or why didn't she put a big clock in the ring and Nick the Arena? They could just have like that cheesy like 80s effect of like tick 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 tick.
Yeah, like the alligator in Peter Pan.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah, like it doesn't make sense. Like if they wanted to do that TikTok thing, they could do something ominous and make it cool. But that hourglass is like for one, it wasn't even running. Like when she turned it over, and, like it doesn't make any noise. And like he tweets out TikTok, and I was like, it just doesn't like it's just his character's been made lame, and like they're just making it worse. Like with the tweets, you know what I mean? When McIntyre, it seems it's just very weird to me. It seems like if they're gonna have him in, like I wouldn't be instructed. It seems like that like McIntyre was instructed to tweet that out. Like that's not in his like personality. It's his his real personality to bury people on the roster like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, go ahead.
I just feel like as a Triple H guy, like why is he being allowed to be? There's room where you can like really make fun of him because people are looking to make fun of him because he was out there in a helmet and like a weird loincloth of like months ago.
Yeah. Well, Andy was controlling his narrative for a while too there. He decided not to control his narrative apparently and go back.
Yeah, and he was out there and he couldn't, another thing I said that, just like he if he's that good, why was he out there making waves?
Yeah.
When you know what I mean?
For sure. I mean, I'm with you 100%. I think I'm even more down on Karrion or on Karrion Kross than you are. Just doesn't fit for me.
I don't mean to keep it.
No, you're good.
Say like to me, he's a mid carder, like on like with the right presentation under Triple H's regime. But it seems like like the way they're kind of mocking him. Just, I mean, not everyone's going to see that, but just. It feels like they need to be very careful and push him in a serious manner to keep him at that mid level because he's not believable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just kind of hokey, over the top, and he's just not, someone I'd bring back.
Yeah, at
that kind of level.
Yeah, would not be high on my list. Also, the entrance is the entrance, but when he's even cutting a promo, it's just not believable. It's kind of like you kind of laugh at the guys he's doing it, which is like I don't know. I don't have anything against the guy personally. Just the way the character's portrayed and his like snarling, kind of weird, deep promos that he does. Just like none of it works for me personally as a fan. And I don't know. It just like I guess the bigger picture thing for me, not just Cross and Loomis is kind of part of this too. I mean, I think Loomis can be kind of an interesting character, but he would not have been high on my list personally to bring back either. But this was like, Triple H was only going to have so much of a honeymoon. And I think he's still in the honeymoon phase for most people. But for me, this was like the first sign of like, hey, every human being on the face of the earth has preferences, and they don't fit everyone else's preferences. And like, this is like the first sign of what Triple H really, really likes and who he's really, really going to push. And instead of the Vince isms, we're already getting like Triple H isms by the people he's brought back into the frame. And I think it's not a disaster by any stretch of the imagination, but it was just the first time I've been like, oh, this is not a home run for Triple H to bring this guy back and put him in this role.
Exciting guys.
Yeah. So, if Gargano comes back and him and Ciampa team or have matches or whatever, I mean, all that can work. There's lots of room for guys that you and I like, as opposed to, I see the value of different people on the show to have balance things out. And, even more, leveled up. I'm just glad there's more people on the roster to do more matches with. Like, that is like,
it's been very weird to me because honestly, like guys that he had under his control that made it to the main roster are guys I would start to focus on instead of like the Dexter Loomises and bring re-signing Karrion Kross. Like Finn Balor, like, could be a huge deal, and he's like really bland in this the new faction he's leading, and it just feels like he can show none of his charisma. He comes out there in long black pants, and like, here's this guy, like when he was in NXT and I'd go to the house shows, like I thought like the world was ending when he came out, and in his NXT days, like he had that kind of like support. Like, I think like Triple H should be focusing on guys like that. Like, hey, let's end this faction. Let's get Finn. Let's elevate Finn back to where he should be, because he could be a top, at least a top 4 or 5 guy if pushed right for them. Like, let's do the Demon right, and let's because he's great. He can talk. As we like when he was Bullet Club leader. And he was really good in the NXT as the Demon. Like, guys like him are guys I would start with, and I was just kind of surprised. Like, I never thought I'd see Omos again, and there he was doing a squash. But
yeah, I mean, it's been odd. I guess that's more the next thing is like the larger, the era of Triple H. Get your thoughts out here. It's been what, a month of that, maybe not even 3 weeks,
maybe.
Yeah. So this is like the third Smackdown, I think, coming up that he's had, or second. But like, what is your grade on the Triple H era versus like the Vince era? And on that thing you're talking about, exactly, people are saying hospital. I think it was on SmackDown last week. Roman said he was going to send someone to the hospital, which was, blew my mind just to hear that on WWE television. But, that and the things you're talking about here of like the low hanging fruit of the Kevin Owens, the Sami Zayns, the Finn Balor's, the, those people, the Shinsuke's, the people
like just what he did with Kevin Owens was great. Like, hey, let's get this. Like, that storyline was like entertaining in and of itself. Like, it was like the good for Vince type of stuff. But, you know what I mean? Like, good by his standards. It was made for fun TV.
Yeah.
But here's Kevin Owens coming off WrestleMania, coming off a brawl with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and that's what he gets after. That's the follow up to working with Steve Austin.
Yeah.
So it felt like Triple H was like, hey, this guy's been off TV. Hopefully people forgot. Like, I'm going to talk about Owens.
Yeah.
So here he is. He just brutalizes Ezekiel, and I like that he's kind of wiping stuff clean, and just also not just letting everything else play out, but making it kind of better as what was going on. And then I think that's smart. Kind of let things continue and then put your own touches on it, and eventually the stories become his own instead of just changing everything at once. I felt, I like that they've given more time to the matches, things like that. Like, the announcers are allowed to talk like human beings.
Yeah, always good. Yeah.
The announcing's been much better. So yeah, I would say like a B+ so far. Like, it's been nothing too drastic, but it's been a pleasant change from what Vince was doing in terms of just, it doesn't feel like we're so regimented into like this like fluff for so much of it. Like it feels like it's just more matches. I mean, not more match, but yeah, more matches during the show, less fluffy stuff, and better announcing. So I like what he's done so far. But I think it's going to take, give him 2 or 3 months so he can turn the stories where he wants them to go. But, ultimately, I don't want to take it another step further, maybe, but just, just to leave it out there, ultimately, does he depart from this, this focus on all these part-time guys and finally start to, I want to see if he's going to make the guys on TV, the guys that are there week in and week out. Is he going to depart from that Vince thing, like where we're just, waiting for Brock to come back or waiting for Roman to have his next big title defense, and instead, like, hey, Kevin Owens is awesome, or hey, Finn Balor's awesome, or Rollins is all, what I mean? Just pumping these guys up and making them feel like they're worth checking out in and of themselves. And we're not waiting, we're not just dying for the next Roman Reigns, or Brock Lesnar appearance, and that's what I'm thinking will play out, because that's kind of a formula that he's gotten by on. And I guess they could still get by on that, and it's worked for them. But man, if he's serious about making the product better, he's really going to say, hey, if I keep doing that, then all the guys I'm pushing, all the fruit, all the labor I'm putting in, I'm not going to bear any fruit because, it's just these 2 or 3 guys that aren't here, and with Roman part-time now. That's what I'm interested to see eventually in the long term, is like, do they create stars of their, do they finally really try to put some momentum behind guys that are there full time?
Yeah, I mean, I think that has not been talked about a lot, and I think that's a good point. I think that is more his MO, Triple H, if you look at his run in NXT. Obviously, there's no like legends to pull back into, and that's not really that environment. But I think the Ciampa and Lashley, just the build for Ciampa to basically have a whole Raw about being a number 1 contender for the U.S. title, and then Ciampa getting elevated and then losing to Lashley is kind of a good microcosm of Triple H to me, in his booking of not totally flipping everything 180. And obviously Ciampa is his dude. Like of all the dudes out there, like Ciampa is that guy. And, you could think like, hey, if he's got full control and he's going to just rip the bandit off, he put Ciampa, facing Roman and beating him. Right. But, he's showing he's slowing things down and slowly transitioning into what he wants to do. And, I think that's been it was really smart to make the U.S. title feel like the title for Raw while Roman has both titles, and then just like a good way to expand a 3-hour window on both times and elevating Ciampa in a loss, which is kind of what AEW has done with guys like Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia, in losses to big time guys. And then eventually it's believable when they beat them. So I think all that's been very positive, and I would agree with basically everything you said there. So, okay, let's go on to the last segment. We're going to talk the G1. So, Sean, you and I have been doing reports for individual days, and we are essentially pretty much caught up. But I'm going to pull up. I don't know if you have it, but I'll do it for you. I've got the current standings as we have it. And for anyone that hasn't watched the G1 this year, there's 4 blocks, and the winner of each block goes to a semifinal match, and the winner of those matches go to the finals. So, as we stand currently, I'll try and just get to the contenders of each group. But Block A, we've got Kazuchika Okada at 8, and then Archer and Jonah at 6. Block B, we've got Jay White and Tama Tonga, surprisingly, at 8, and Sonata at 6 points. Block C, we've got Zack Sabre Jr. at 8, and then we've got a log jam of Hiroki Goto, Tanahashi, and Naito at 6. And then Block D is the free-for-all. We've got Yujiro Takahashi at 6, David Finlay at 6, and then everyone else at 4 in the groups. That one's the wide open group. To kind of have someone elevate, and it seems to be, to me, David Finlay in that group personally. But so that's kind of where we are right now. We are I guess I can't do the math, but we have like 10 more nights, not 10 more nights,
close
6
to
more nights.
that home stretch.
Yeah. So your thoughts on the G1 so far, and then really just take it wherever you want to go. I mean, I've enjoyed.
I gotta get caught up. I haven't
Yeah.
seen everything, but
Yeah.
I've seen the shows I've covered, obviously, and
Mm-hmm.
like one of the things that I found kind of weird is not weird, but like the format, like I'm used to each block having these self-contained stories,
Yeah.
but it's all over the place because
Yeah.
they have like there might be 2 matches from a block, and then the other 2 matches are from the other 3 matches are from different blocks. So it's kind of hard for Kevin Kelly to do the storytelling when it's, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
you have like all these matches are scattershot. Some guys are wrestling 3 nights in a row. Some guys don't wrestle for 2 weeks. So it's kind of, you know what I mean? Or
Mm-hmm.
10 days maybe. That is better than not. But there's long delays. For some guys, like I know Jonah's wrestling a bunch in the stretch of a bunch of matches in a short time. So, like in that part, I feel like the stories are all over the place, and it's kind of been hard. Like all of a sudden, like one night in, like they were already like dragging on Tanahashi. Like if he loses his first match, I was like, oh my gosh, we're on night 1 and we're already doing this.
Yeah.
And then Naito too. Like, oh, if Naito doesn't win, he's his dream of main event. I'm like, because it's only 6 matches for each guy, it's like, yeah, they better win all their matches.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it just feels really accelerated. That's the only parts I haven't liked. It's just like, each block usually has like 5 or 6 stories, and they're fun to follow within the matches. But like with 4 blocks, it's like just all over the place. And then you have nights where like you've got like 4 of the 5 matches have like all 8 guys are actually like either eliminated or just like hell would have to freeze over for them to even tie.
Yeah.
So there was a day the other night, I think after I covered, where like every match the guy was either eliminated or like even the night I watched, there were a couple like the guy was either eliminated or heaven and earth had to be moved for him to
probably the block A and block B and block
So-
C. I mean, there's lots of guys with 2. I mean, Kenta getting totally buried in this is
So
Inishi.
it's been like in that respect, it's been hard
Mhm.
to get excited about. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and I just I haven't tried to cover for Zach, so I haven't really. I was going to try to catch up this past week, but Zach's not feeling well, so I've been trying to do the news and stuff and keep up with what's going on with the side eye at G1, and
Mhm.
it's just been kind of like I don't know. It's just not generate like I could go on Twitter and not get. I wasn't even thinking about it the other day, like because I was just looking for news, like what's going on today, what should I post?
Mhm.
Like I didn't come across one sport, like you know what I mean. I get on at like 8:30 in the morning and start looking around, get look again at 11 or 12. Like not one sport. Like the only thing, like finally the thing of like Jay White, having some sort of issue and having to be pulled out of a couple shows came up,
Mhm.
and that was it.
Yeah, some outside the ring stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a year ago that could like not a year ago, but before the pandemic, I couldn't go online without being spoiled. If I had to catch up, you know what I mean? If I had to catch up with something New Japan, like usually I'm watching the next day in the afternoon because it airs overnight, and so I'd have to stay off Twitter. And like like one time I went on Instagram and somehow there were pictures from the show with the winners raising the belts and you know what I mean. So it's like not one time, like, and I follow all wrestling people.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just weird, like, because it's been pretty, like, the wrestling's been pretty good overall. Like, the atmosphere, like, the fans are doing their best to be like enthusiastic. I feel like,
Yeah, just clapping.
like they try to like you feel so bad for them because they try to get like super loud, like they're going,
yeah.
They really get to the match, so they really try to get loud. But it's like it's really hard to like sit down and like get excited about watching the shows. Like there have been some really good shows, but it's like you come off watching Dynamite, are you excited to boy, I better catch up on G1 tonight after 10 o'clock, Dynamite's over, CM Punk's in the ring, they hit the dead air. It's I'll put on New Japan World, you put it on, it's
Yeah, that's like the climax of the main event.
So
Is that clap? Yeah.
I just feel like it's hard to ask people to like. I've been trying to do my spoiler-free guide when I do the put the matches I'd recommend watching if
Mhm.
short on time. There's been some really good matches, especially Jonah and Okada. I don't know if you saw that, but that was quite good
Yeah,
considering the atmosphere they
great.
have.
Mhm.
And of
Yeah,
course,
Jonah and
I think
Cobb too. I mean,
followed
Jonas.
up a win.
Yeah.
And like it drove me crazy because he followed up a win by losing via count out to
Mhm.
Lance Archer the next
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
So
kind of the G1 for you of recent vintage, at least.
I just feel
But
like it's like kind of typical of like their recent booking. There's good matches, there's bad booking, like or mediocre to bad booking, and there's not a great atmosphere. But in the end, they'll pull the top out guys together to get to maybe they elevate someone like Finley out of one of the blocks, but it's
Mhm.
kind of predictable who's going to win in every block. A big name will come through. And you'll get two big names in the you got to get two big names in the finals, and so it'll come to a good conclusion, I think. But I think like doing it this way, man, it's just not like it feels scattershot to me. It's not terrible, but it's just not what it's far away from what made me really enjoy G1. And G1 was a grind. Like I was like, even when it was incredible, I was tired. I'd be like, just pick me up off the floor dead, covering it every day.
Yeah, for sure.
And that ran out of steam a few years. It felt like that ran out of steam like a few years ago, where it just, I don't know exactly what happened, but it just stuff slowly started to dissipate for whatever reason.
Yeah, and this is go ahead.
But now it's not bad, but it's like it's hard, it's just like you're like, if you're telling someone else, you know what I mean? Like it's fun to talk about a product and you can be like, hey, you should watch this. This is great. Like I can't text Wade and say, hey, Wade, watch, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like watch, the main event of, the D block, maybe catch the C block match before and then watch.
Yeah.
He's going to be like, what the heck are you talking
about? Be like, you got to find the August 3rd. You got to go at the 2 hour. Yeah. It's just like they need to make a super cut.
It's just hard, like to say to someone, hey, watch this.
Yes.
You have to already be into it to be watching it.
Yeah, you got to be really into it. It's very
like
specific.
I am, like because I'm like when Kevin Kelly starts talking, like I just start nerding out with him. It's like he gets the stats going from Chris, and all But like one thing I'll say is like seeing some of the guys from Strong on has been a lot of fun. Like Tom Lawler, like how the crowd loves him, and his promos have been like friggin' amazing. And
he's been good on commentary too. I think it's been fun on commentary. I don't know if
when Chris Charlton's not there. And,
yeah.
I saw you pop that out. Like I was gonna say, like Jonah, I don't know how much Kevin talks to, you know what I mean? Like how much feedback he actually, like I don't think they get much feedback about the booking and where things are going with guys.
Yeah.
But like the way he talked about Jonah during like his match with Okada the other day, and just Jonah felt like such a big deal, like a force of nature, and he just put Okada away, and it was just such a like. Okada had come back against, Jonah was dominant, and Okada came back. It's like, here we go. Okada's going to get him. But no, Jonah, like, was presented in his peak form, like, with tremendous booking. He carried himself like a super heavyweight, like, perfect for Japan. Like, Japan is great for, like, these big foreigners to come in. After the match, you get just nerding out. He does the TMDK shout out. He's got the new guy with him, Tito, and they're just sitting on the, he's cutting the promo, and he just has such a presence about him. I thought that was probably the highlight of the tournament so far. It was just like, this guy is going to be awesome in New Japan. Like,
well, if Triple H doesn't just sign him immediately, if he can, right? I think he'd bring him. He'd bring him back in a
Here,
heartbeat. Yeah, it depends what his contract is, but yeah, I think he'd bring him back in a heartbeat. But I think you're bringing it. Oh,
I really want to see him stay in New Japan.
Yes, I do too. I think that's better for him. But who knows with people coming back? He's a Triple H guy for sure. So I think you brought up some really good points here, and I think like you're echoing a lot of the stuff I'm feeling from a broad standpoint. Yeah, wrestling's good, but it's hard to get into. It's always been hard to get into. Anything that starts at 5 a.m. Eastern time is going to be hard to convince people that aren't really into the sport to get into. But it's more of a, just like New Japan in general the last couple of years with the expansion of Wrestle Kingdom, which I think universally has been not good to a disaster, especially night 3. That the thing, no match meaning anything, and it's this separate buy you have to do. And that's what this feels like with the G1. The G1 felt so special, so unique, felt like the biggest wrestling event of the year when you had 20 guys and you had these long stories you could tell. And yeah, it was, each block had its own night, so you'd switch nights on and off. You could continue to tell those stories. If block A was one night, and then the next night they would be in multi-man tag matches where you can set up matches for the rest of the block. It just fits so perfectly. And this is like, every time I'm going to watch, especially when I'm covering it, like you almost need a spreadsheet to know, like, okay, so this match here is this block. So if this person really needs to win here, and like, Kevin Kelly does a good job explaining that on commentary, but it's just too much. Like, it's already a big investment to follow
it's
this
not linear,
anyway. Yeah,
you need linear storytelling for the G1, like 2 blocks, like you have 2 stories.
Yeah, and hey, these are like, with 2 blocks, like, hey, this guy can't win the block, but he's really setting himself up for like a good rest of the year by having some because wins and losses matter in the G1. Like, having 6 points and being like finishing 5th in the block when you're somebody is important, as opposed to now just kind of like, I don't know, it just doesn't seem as beneficial. And
it feels like I could remember more too, like about like matches like this took place on this night in the B block, and then you see like, oh, on this night he's got this match coming, so yeah, that's gonna break, set him up for any tiebreakers. And it's like now it's just too scattered. Like you can't follow 4 stories at once.
No.
Like, and they're mixed up, and then they go in the tags, and like the tags are all like the guys are, you know what I mean?
Yeah, those have always been skippable, I would say. I'm not a completist, but yeah. So I think we're on the same page, and we'll see. I think the finals will be good. The semifinals,
they are very skippable.
Yes.
But I watch. They're fine to watch if you like. For me, just like covering the show, I watch them and then do a little recap. But man, there's not much there except just seeing like the young lions, seeing how the young lions are doing.
Yeah, for sure. And that's like what it was. The best part of that sometime. But now you get the interfaction.
I like the Tom Lawler matches too.
Yeah,
he's a lot of fun
for sure. But
you don't need to watch those really.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that is just the point to make. I think we're on the same page. See where we are at the end. But I think that's a universal take, at least in the States. I'd love if there was some Japanese media that we could ask and how they're feeling about it, because I'd love to know how like a local New Japan viewer likes or doesn't like this setup, and does it feel like the prestige is down to them as it does, I think, for us a little bit. Not that the winning the G1 is not still.
Have to see if maybe the Observer report, like Dave might be a little plugged in to see. I haven't read this week's yet. See, it'd be nice if he had some notes on that, because he seems a little like at times like
locked into people there,
able to say how it's received locally. I mean, you can go by attendance, I guess. But like just by their handicap, just by restrictions, pretty much.
For sure. So
it's hard to say like this attendance is, I mean, I guess you could take a look at the attendance and analyze it, but like it would be nice to see like, are like people excited about this, beyond like just the hardcore fans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or is it year over year with the different changes in the block? And honestly, once a wrestling company does something like this, I don't think it's going to change, which is I think disappointing for me. But we'll see. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, like when Wrestle Kingdom started, I was disappointed. Then they went to 3 nights. I was like, I mean, this whole idea of excess came from WWE, and to see it like New Japan had been my safe haven for so long, and now here we go. Like I know they're trying to westernize it now, because they want a presence in the U.S., and they've done a really good job of Strong. Like, you know what I mean? Establishing a foothold with that brand without most of their major stars. Like they've done an admirable job, I'd say, considering that thing could be a disaster, but they've done, you know what I mean? They've done well enough. Cultivating a small following for that brand, but it just feels like they have this idea of what the Western audience wants, and it just feels like just based on the 40-man Royal Rumble, like the WWE, like they're just basing it on what WWE would do. And I think even someone came out and said Tony was thinking of doing 2-night pay-per-views, and I was like, just ready to he shut that. I think he came out and shut it down.
Yeah,
came out. Yeah. I was like, I can't watch like 24 like matches in 2 nights of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you. Keep doing the
with Excalibur and Jim Ross, just shouting their heads off for 2 nights.
Yeah.
But it's just like the Exodus though, like just tying it to New Japan. It's just, I mean, I hope you're wrong, but I think you're right. In terms of like this is how the blocks are going to be, and they're doing it so they can bring over more of create more slots to bring over guys that are, new guys that are in the U.S. And room for surprises like free agents and things like that. But man, just 18 is enough. Whatever, 10 people or whatever it was before.
Yeah,
20, it was 20.
20 people. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 10's enough. Please go. You just want to beg them to go back, but it just feels like once that they did it, they won't they won't reverse. I feel like they won't reverse course.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, on that uplifting note, I think that's a good place to end the show. Unfortunately, we both agree too much, I think, on that stuff.
My Tanahashi towel.
Yeah, there you go. But
it's pre-COVID sweat still on it.
Yeah. Well, Sean, thank you for joining me, and I want to thank everyone for joining us on the chat. Marcus is on, Dr. Ross, Tracy.
Thanks, guys. Bruce, I didn't have YouTube pull up. I apologize. I wasn't. I saw you pop up some of the questions.
Yeah. Well, Zach is the one who's much better at tying them in, so I'm trying to get better at it. So I apologize, everyone. They had great chats with each other in the chat, so I appreciate
anyone that listens or stays in the chat.
For sure, yeah, it's awesome. And as always, please subscribe. Precious said that an hour and 12 minutes ago, but we appreciate everyone here. Yeah, tell a friend.
Yeah, definitely like and subscribe. That's important, guys. Yep. We appreciate everyone that watched.
Yep. So thank you for helping us grow this channel. And Sean, thank you for joining me again, as always. And we will be back next week. Hopefully Zach and I will be reunited, and we'll do that again. And we're going to be doing
Feel Better, Zach.
Yes, Feel Better, Zach. Thinking about you. And thanks everyone, and we'll see you later.